My parents grew up in the Soviet Union, so for them, the culture of physical body is an essential part of development. And they made me try every sport possible. I tried soccer, I tried basketball, gymnastics, swimming for a time, but I disliked every one of them. There wasn't nothing that truly grabbed my attention and interest. I would do a couple of lessons and then I quit it because it was boring to me, it wasn't interesting. One day, my mom, out of desperation, decides to take me to a judo class. So I was complaining and refusing to do, but she just grabbed me as a 7 years old. She threw me into the car, was like, пошел в тренировку, блядь, пошел judo. And then she took me to judo. And we gone to the training. I still refused to participate, but I watched the lesson from the beginning to the end. And I saw all of these kids with these strange white pajamas doing running, they were doing handstands, cartwheels, they were laughing and throwing each other, they were wrestling, and it seemed very interesting to me. I was looking at them and thinking like, oh, that's look fun, that look fun. So why not try? So the next week I come back, I've done my first judo lesson. Needless to say that I loved it. It was beautiful to me, and since then I've never stopped. Now I'm 23. When I first came into my first judo lesson, I was 7. Now I'm 23, and it's more than 10 years that I'm practicing and competing in the sport. And it was an important and essential part of my development. If I am the man that I am today, it's because judo gave me a lot of lessons. Lessons not only about my body, lessons not only about myself, but it made me understand some truths about life. And I'm not exaggerating about it. Today, I want to share one of these lessons with you, so stay tuned. Since judo is a combat sport, it's organized into weight classes. Basically, every athlete has to be into a certain weight class in order to compete with the other athletes that are of the same strength and size. So what athletes usually do is the so-called weight cut, which is famous in MMA, but it's done in many other sports, combat sports and not, which basically means you lose a ton of body weight in a very short period of time by dehydrating yourself and starving yourself in order to get a competitive advantage after the weigh-in in terms of size and strength to your opponents. Does it sound stupid? Does it sound dangerous? Well, because it fucking is. There is a lot of documented cases of people that try to do a weight cut, and because they've weight cut it too much, or because they've done it in a way that is not proper, that is not scientific, they have died. Some people actually died because they cut it too much weight. And I remember doing this one competition where I cut it around, I believe it was 6 kilos to get into my weight class in a week. So I was 72 kilograms on Monday and I cut it down to 66 on Saturday. So it would be 6 kilos in pounds, it would be like 14, I believe, 14, 15 pounds, something like that. And I can tell you it was rough. It was around 10% of my body weight, something like that. And it wasn't my first cut, but this one in particular was very difficult for me because at the time I needed to finish my thesis and study for so many exams in order to finish university in time. Also, I had a lot of arguments and troubles with my family in the household, and it was very difficult for me to manage all the worries in my head, to manage the hunger and the pressure from the upcoming competition and from my academic duties, okay? The day before, I remember that I put on some clothes and started to walk in order to sweat the last couple of kilograms. It was the 6th of October, it was October, September, something like that, but it was very sunny outside, it was very hot, and the people were going like in t-shirts, and there was this weirdo that has like a lot of, that has a jacket and a lot of sweaters in order to sweat as much as possible. And I've gone to do a walk outside, and I remember eating like 2 boiled eggs with no salt for dinner. Very, very sad dinner. My mouth was very dry from lacking liquids in my body because I was completely dehydrated, and my rest heart rate was around 100 beat per minute, and To give you an idea, 100 beats per minute, it's what a person with cardiac problems have. A normal person, someone who trains and do a lot of cardiovascular exercise like myself, should be around 60 beats per minute. It's like nearly the double of BPM that I should have as a rest heart rate. And even though I was really tired, I was exhausted, I couldn't sleep. My mind was foggy. I wanted to rest. I wanted to go to sleep, but I couldn't. My body was like in this survival mode, and I wasn't able to rest. So I basically laid in bed for 8 hours in this miserable state until it was time to go to the competition. Okay, and I maybe put a photo of me when I woke up that morning. I looked like a fucking crackhead in in that photo. I felt so bad. I was tired as fuck. I was moving slowly and my heart rate wasn't slowing down at all. And in that competition, I fought with everything I had, which wasn't much. And my hands weren't able to grab the gi of my opponent. I wasn't able to do nothing because my mind wasn't able to focus on what I was doing. And every movement felt like an Herculean effort. And after 5 minutes of this uphill battle, not only against my opponent, but also against my fucking body that wasn't responding to my commands, I get thrown and I lost the first match. This competition was particularly important because it served as a qualification tournament for the nationals. So losing that competition meant not going to the nationals. I remember stepping down from the mat, lying on the floor, exhausted, and started crying. I remember that I cried a lot. Partly because I was sleep deprived, so my emotional regulation wasn't that much good, but also because I was exhausted, I was frustrated. I was very frustrated because I trained as hard as I possibly could. I starved myself, I skipped meals, I skipped parties, I refused to go with dinners with my friends because I wanted to be able to cut all the weight down for that competition, and all of my efforts gone for nothing. I gave all I had and it wasn't enough. That's the worst feeling. No, not actually, not the worst, but it's a bad feeling. Giving all that you possibly can and it not being enough. And I started to asking myself while I was lying on that floor, I asked myself, why would I put myself through all of this suffering only to get always disappointed? Because that wasn't the first competition that I was losing that year. It was a very bad year for me. I won nothing. It was a bad year in general, but it was very frustrating for me. I started thinking, maybe I should quit. I should just quit. I'm done with this shit. After that, I'm gonna try to do something differently entirely or find something new that brings me new satisfaction. This is going to be my last competition. This is what I was thinking at the time. And I once read a book from Eric Fromm called The Art of Loving. And in one of these pages, he said that there was this phrase that remained stuck in my head. And this phrase was, practicing love is a discipline, not a feeling. And I was confused at the time because I believed, well, why should I need discipline to love? Discipline is for doing something that you don't really feel like, but while love should be something that you feel toward, it's something that you perceive as something that you want to do. Shouldn't love come easy? Shouldn't love come smooth? Why would you need discipline for loving? And when I was there, lying on that floor in that sports hall, crying about another defeat, in that moment of desperation, I truly understood what the words of Eric Fromm really meant. I understood what true love was. I loved judo, and I still do, but I didn't always like it. I always loved it, but I've not always liked it. Because there were times where I hated the sport. And by hated, I mean really hated. There were times where Just putting a gi on my shoulders started to irritate my skin. It was like putting like spines on your shoulders. It felt very uncomfortable for me to put a gi because I was so done with the sport. I didn't want to do that anymore. Or there were times where I remember scrolling Instagram and I saw these judo clips, judo highlights from various tournaments, international tournaments, and I remember I feeling nausea. I wanted to puke. I just throw my phone because I didn't want to watch any of that shit. I was so done with the sport that I didn't even want to see things related to that. And when I tell you that there were times that I fucking hate that sport, I really meant it with all of myself. But I still kept going. And I tried to improve myself at the sport. Because despite all of the times that this passion hurted me, and despite all the times that I didn't feel like going to training, I still disciplined myself to do so. And I get it. I know that feelings and happiness are important. Of course, passions and partners and love is in this life to make it better, to make it more meaningful, to make it more, to give it purpose to live it. But still, if you believe that love doesn't require a certain amount of willpower or discipline, you are fucking delusional. Because hard times will come and you need to be prepared for it. There will be times when you didn't feel like doing something nice for your partner. Or there will be times where your partner will disappoint you or make you angry or trigger you. There will be times where you will be so fucking mad at your partner for hurting you so much despite all of what you did for them, despite all the efforts that you gave, despite all that you tried to create with them, they will hurt you. And would you throw away everything you've built together for a moment of discomfort, or because you get bored, or because that's a tough period of your relationship? Would you throw away everything for a moment of despair? And these are the moments when discipline is required. Because in these times, you need to stop your emotional mind and force yourself to still do the effort to cultivate this relationship. If it's really meaningful to you, you have to do the effort. You have to do the extra mile. Later that year, I graduated in physical therapy. I moved up a weight class and kept competing at my sport since now. And the fact was, I needed to change myself. I couldn't do that competition at 66 anymore. I wasn't really able. Right now, I'm weighing like 75 kilograms. It's impossible that I can come down to that weight class once again. And I would never do so. It would be like, I would kill myself. I would make it sooner. But the fact is, you need to change yourself in order to keep the relationship going. If it's worth it, you maybe gotta do so. And the fact is, what I learned is that if you want to really love, you might have to accept all the parts of what you love. And love is not about always feeling good. That's the lesson that I learned that day. Love is not about always feeling good. Love is about accepting the full spectrum of experiences that a relationship with a partner or with a passion gives you, good and bad. You cannot take one and give the other away, okay? You can work to mitigate the bad things, but you gotta accept the full spectrum of experiences that loving something or someone will give to you. And sometimes, when you look back at the hard moments, you might realize that these ones are the most precious. Because if you are able to overcome them, your bond with your passion or your bond with your loved one will get stronger. And both of you will become higher human beings. And my experience looking back at that story, I'm talking about one of the worst days that I had in 2023. I can tell you guys, it was definitely the worst day that I had in 2023. But Without the day, I wouldn't be here to tell you a story. I wouldn't be here with this acknowledgement of a true life lesson that the sport has taught to me. I hope that you find the video enjoyable, and I hope that I gave you some insights, and thank you for watching. Remember to aim upward always.